gym. They go and train 5 days a week. Players, I get young players saying to me, I want to be a pro. Well, at semi-professional football, we only train twice a week. We're in 3 days a week. We train twice and play a game on a Saturday. We play a game on Tuesday. We only train once a week. So how are you going to be a professional footballer if professional footballers are training 5 days a week? You need to go and do what they're doing. Go and train 5 days a week. Train with your semi-pro club twice a week. Train 3 days a week on your own, or find someone to train you, or find somewhere where you can go train to access that. Do what the pros are doing, as well as playing games, putting yourself in a shop window. But that's the advice I'll give to young players. If you don't...
Right. Thanks for coming on, Justin. How are you?
I'm fine. No, thank you very much for having me on, Fish.
Great. Now, tell me a bit about yourself. How did you get into coaching?
How I got into coaching was I was working in a college when I was about 21, and the opportunity to go do some work at Leighton Orient Community came up, and I went and did that for probably almost a year, best part of a year, which was really good, working with kids that come out of prisons, players that are probably not quite ready to go into the academies, but on the brinks. So yeah, that was quite enjoyable. Did that for about a year, but financially it wasn't, at my time of life, financially it wasn't enough for me to sort of survive on, so I had to go and do something else. And then I started playing again, football. And then just by chance, really, I was playing for a team called Walthamstow Avenue, and the manager sort of resigned, and we was in a bad situation, almost relegated, and the chairman asked me to take over this. I was probably about 26 at the time, and I did that for maybe 3-4 months, and then from there I went to Bethnal Green United. I was sort of headhunted by Bethnal Green United, and sort of done very well for them. Took them from, I think, step 10 to step 5. Won a lot of trophies, probably about 5 or 6 trophies. And then, doing really well at Bethnal Green, got them into the quarterfinal of FA Vars, a couple of games away from Wembley. And then I got picked by Aveley to go and manage them, who at the time was in the Ryman Prem, but practically relegated. And then, I was there for 4.5 years, got to the playoffs, semi-final of Essex Senior Cup. So, and then from there I went to Billericay with Glenn Tamplin. I was there for maybe 7-8 months, or almost a season really, because it was October to the end of the season. And then I went to Aveley, Barking in 2017, and I've been there ever since, really.
How's Barking been for you?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's local to me, so that's good. I know the club well now. I'm going to be entering my 4th season. Every year the club's progressed on and off the pitch, and this season is probably going to be the biggest in the club's history, because they're having a whole new refurbishment of the stadium, 4G pitch going down, floodlights, surround sound system, and dugouts, and clubhouse being done up, and change rooms being done up. So for those that have ever been to Barking, when they go back and see it for the start of this season, they're going to be quite surprised how much work's been put into it.
How was your season personally last year?
Didn't start great. We was in September. We was 3rd from bottom, very poor, and made a couple of changes, tweaked a few things, and I think from September we've lost 5 games in 6 months, and we was flying really, and probably playoff form, and I wouldn't have bet against us in making the playoffs. So we all fancied it, the players, management team, and we was quite disappointed for the season to end. But obviously there was teams that are in a better position than us that probably as disappointed or more disappointed than us.
So when you start the season off poorly, how hard is it to actually turn it around?
Well, I've been quite lucky that I've not had too many bad starts to the season. So that was probably a bit of a new experience to me. I can't remember off the top of my head really having such a poor start. I think in my first season at Barking, we was floating around maybe 6th or 7th from bottom, but which we expected. They just came up. There was underdogs and. But this season, in honesty, the squad we had, I was quite shocked that we was in that position. a lot of it maybe to do with change the system, how we wanted to play. I brought in a new coaching team around me and new players. So I thought we had a half decent pre-season. So we was quite confident going into the season. But obviously we went into a new league. We got transferred into a new league sort of at the last minute, really. Something that we didn't expect, something that we didn't want. And I don't think I'll say I underestimated the league, because I did do my homework speaking to managers, but maybe the league improved drastically from the season before, because the manager I was speaking to was saying a team of yours, Justin, will do really well in this league. So I ran with that and sort of signed the players that I think was going to do that job for me. But as I said, we played Ashford Town, I think September, who were bottom of the league. We were third from bottom. We drew 1-1. And that was really the final nail in the coffin for some players. And I was honest with players and just said, look, football's a results business. And I think I've been fair giving you it was almost end of September, giving you 2 full months, including pre-season, 4 months. So, yeah, change had to be made. I got rid of, I think, 5 players, brought in 3, promoted 1 from the 23s. 1 got an international clearance was training with us for the best part of 3-4 months before. And as I said, our form from September was fantastic, really. If you judge our form from September to when the season finished, I'd be very surprised if there was 3 or 4 better teams than us in the whole league.
So would you say there was a turning point in the season where it actually found your form, or would you say there's a certain thing that you worked on in training?
Well, as I said, that game was a turning point in terms of that I had to make changes. But our first win was against a team called FC Romania, which was vital. We got a 2-1 win. And yeah, as I said, we sort of went on. I think at one stage we only lost that once in home in 4 or 5 months. I think something like that. So we had a good home record. And yeah, the turning point would have been the FC Romania game, really, because obviously that gave us our first 3 points, and we sort of kicked on from there.
Really. So going back to you've brought in a new coaching team this year. How important is it for you personally that you have a great support network around you?
Yeah, I can't talk highly enough of how important it is to have a good management team around you. People that is willing to challenge you, willing to push you, willing to bring new ideas to the camp, be willing to work as hard as you, match your work rate, being trustworthy, being ambitious. No point having people around you that are ambitious because you'll stand still. So yeah, to be honest with you, I sort of headhunted the person who's working with me because he was part of Cray under 23's successful team. If it's from your neck of the woods, really, that South Side, the Cray under 23's that were really successful for a few years and had a lot of players that went into the pro game. So yeah, there was 2 of them at the time that I sort of approached. Was Mark Dacey and Adam Fleming. And yeah, Dacey couldn't stay on really due to work commitments, and Adam stayed with us. And as I said, he's had a year of men's football under his belt, and I think he's a better coach for it. And he's looking forward to the new season. Yeah, and as I said, I'm really happy with my management team. I'm on the lookout to add 1 more experience to the management team. So yeah, so I'm sort of talking to a few candidates, but not got the right, or not agreed with the right person at the moment. Yeah, so.
So if there's anyone watching this that wants to kind of apply or anything, how can they get in contact?
Well, yeah, obviously they can always contact me on Twitter, or they can contact the club from my phone number. The best way to probably do it, I wouldn't want to give my phone number out on here, but yeah, the best way to do it is probably contact me on Twitter, and I'll give my phone number if it is. But as I said, I'm in discussions with a few people. But yeah, but sometimes, as I say to players, if you don't ask, you don't get. I might not know that someone who's available that I know of or can fit that role, really. So yeah, I'm always willing to have a chat with anyone. As I'm having a chat with you, I'm an open book, really friendly person, and always try and make time for everyone, because football's a small world, and I think we need to all support each other.
No, 100%, I agree with you, and thank you for coming on again. So going through however long you've been coaching, I'm not sure how many years it's been.
16 years.
Wow. You
Yeah,
look young, by the way. Just saying.
yeah I'm 40. I started when I was probably, like I said, 26. So, well, no, 14 years then. 14 years, yeah, 14 years.
Wow. I mean, I would have said you're about 34, but
Yeah,
um,
thanks.
going into kind of your history now. Every preseason is somewhat different. Do you feel like you have like a certain way that you would kind of go into preseason and then go from there, or does it change every year?
Um, I like to think my principles remain the same. As professionalism, hard working, getting our tactics across, implementing them, following instructions, timekeeping, attendance. Yeah, but I would say, majority of my career, my team just I played similar to the way I've always played, which is trying to play out from the back really, and obviously being adaptable. But yeah, this season we tried to play a different, still playing football from the back, but just played it a different way rather than previously. I'll try and get the ball to the fullbacks, where this season we'll probably try to get the ball to the holding midfielder, with the midfielders rotating and fullbacks coming inside. So that was a big change. But the football's an easy game. It's just players that make it difficult. So systems are important, but I honestly believe any system you play, if a player really buys into it and wants to win and wants to evolve and be successful, then I don't really think systems are as important as some coaches and managers set out to believe. It has to give players a base to sort of know where their positions are. I understand that, but as I said, I played a number of systems, and sometimes you just get the right players that click for that system, and it might not be the shape of the system that you want to play with. But I do have a system that I prefer, but we also have to be adaptable.
So, how important is it for a manager who's in kind of your step level to be adaptable to the players that he's obviously available to?
Well, at the beginning of the pre-season, previously before pre-season starts, you try and identify players to play the system that you want to play. Sometimes that doesn't work out. Sometimes something will happen in the pre-season game. You've had to change the system, and it's happened to me before where you stumble across a system. When I was at Avery, I remember we played the 3-diamond-3. So three centre backs, diamond 4, and 3 up top, 3 strikers. And we stumbled across that. It wasn't something that we planned to do, and we went on a 12-13 game unbeaten run. So yeah, sometimes you have to play. If come end of pre-season and you're trying to play away, but you ain't managed to sign the right players, or the players that you got ain't doing what you're as asked of them, then you got to obviously change the system to suit the players. And I've had to do that sometimes, and yeah, there's no problem in that.
Would you say it's difficult?
As I said, I've played football, and anyone that's played football, yeah, like I said, if you was a centre back and you probably would. If you was a centre back didn't have pace, you probably wouldn't like to be in the back 3. You'd rather be in the back 4. I understand that, but then you could be that centre back if you're the slow one. You could play in the middle of it and still have the same sort of effect. So, as I said, I believe in some way our system can hinder a player's strengths and weaknesses, but overall, I think if you're a half decent player, you should be able to play in most systems, if not all.
Mm. Going back into your history now, was it important for you to be under? So you went under what was Mr. Tamplin's name? Was it Tamplin?
Yeah, Glenn Tamplin, yeah.
Yeah. So how important was it for you to go under someone with experience and kind of learn off them?
Well, to be honest, I'm more experienced than him. So we was joint managed together. So yeah, I've been managing more than him. That was his first in senior football. That was his first time of managing. So, but what I did learn from him was, which I've never thought I would really learn from anyone, was because I think I'm probably the best motivator. And as I said, in years, I could, apart from obviously a player, sometimes a player can motivate me in terms of like, I think, wow, like, you know what I mean, his ambition and his commitment to be the best. I find that a motivation, but more so pleasing. But with Glenn, uh, as I said, he'd be the first to tell you that his strengths are motivating players, and he's really good at that.
Mm.
Excuse
Let's
me.
going over your seasons. How important do you find your first 3 games
Again, sorry.
over the seasons you've been coaching? Let's
Yeah.
how
Sorry.
important.
Hay fever.
That's okay, mate. I got the exact same thing. Over the seasons, how important do you find the first 3 games of each season?
Um. Yeah, it's an old cliche, really, isn't it? A great start will always help, and yeah, and even players believe that, managers believe that, but at the same time, I actually tell you a story. I think the first season I got to the playoffs with Aveley, if I'm not mistaken, we only won one game in pre-season.
Mm.
Shocking pre-season, and I remember whispers around the club with the play with supporters and obviously people on the board. They were quite concerned that obviously things were coming back to me, but I wasn't concerned because um, I believe that I believe that some players were holding themselves back because they was ready for the to achieve the target at the beginning of the season, and unfortunately some players don't play well in preseason. And on the flip side, I had it last year where I had players that were outstanding in preseason, and I'm sitting back talking to my assistant saying, "This boy's going to go pro. We're going to lose him. We're lucky to have him for a month." Season starts and the bubble burst. They ended up not even being good enough to get into my team. So as I said, it's about believing in your players really, and obviously last season I believed in my players, but obviously there's a time that comes where you've got to say, even if I believe in you, and I've tried to change things in systems, I've tried to changing, I've tried to be adaptable. I've spoken to players, I've listened to players to find out what their point of view thinks going wrong. Is there anything I can do different? I've spoken to my assistant. Is there anything that we are doing different that we need to take responsibility for? Which sometimes managers have to look at themselves and can't always blame players.
Mm.
And as I said, but there's a time and a point where it comes where you get. I think that's a lot of managers' fault. So when you see a lot of managers getting sacked in football, I think a lot of them, which I feel sorry for them, is they've been loyal to the players, and those players are ultimately the ones that got them sacked. And then when that manager gets another job in football, those players don't show loyalty by going to play for him. So that's why I think, to a certain degree, managers need to be wary on both sides, really, of being loyal to players, but at the same time protecting themselves. And as I said, I've been quite lucky that I've not really had poor starts this season, but yeah, good starts are always very important. And they always say take the games in fives. If you can get as many points as you can out of your first 5 games, and then you can sort of adjust your season and know where you're going to be from there. But I don't think a season. I don't really think you can judge where a team's going to be until about 10, 15 games, really.
Mm. So during these hard times, obviously, people believe man management is key and it's very important.
That is key, yeah.
Yeah. Where would you say you learned that side of things in coaching, or did you learn it as a player?
I say the best advice I ever give someone getting into management, and advice that I gave myself, no one really taught me this, is coming towards the end of my playing days, which weren't really my end of my playing days in terms of my age, but I got an injury. I remember I was playing for a team, and I felt, and the team was performing, I felt I was playing really, really well. And I'm quite, I think I'm quite, anyone that's played for me will tell you I'm quite hard to please. And I always had this sort of, um, I'll say half serious, half banter argument with my captain, because I'm always on to him and always say he can do better, but then he'll throw stats at me, and 9 times out of 10 will say, well, like, I'm one of the better players on the pitch, which is necessarily true, but I know what he can do. So I always think I'm quite critical. So I don't think I'm one of these people that say, oh, I'm playing really great, and clearly everyone in the world can see that you're not. So as I said, I was playing really well, and then they brought in another player and sort of put him in the team straight away in my spot, and it was upsetting. And but I remember saying to myself, I'm going to give it a month, and if nothing don't change, and the boys doing well and the team's winning, then I've just got to hold my hands up and say, look, yeah, it wasn't fair. Not something that I necessarily would do, but I'll have to move on. And that's the sort of advice I give to myself and give to any player that plays for me. If you've not got a sniff and the manager's not using you and you're not getting the team, even though the manager wants you to get a team, but the team's doing well and someone's in your position, after a month, you've probably got to look at it a month to 6 weeks and say, look, it's lovely club, love playing for you, Gaffer, blah, 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 but I've got to go and play football. And I have no qualms with that. It's when players leave after 1 or 2 games, and that's sort of not the fighting attitude you want. So, yeah, going back into what I said to myself when I went into management is I'm going to treat players how I want it to be treated. And I always make it quite clear it's your shirt to lose. So if one of my star players get injured or lose their shirt for suspension or lose their shirt for whatever reason, and a youngster or a rookie, or so to speak, comes and takes his shirt and he plays well, until that boy has a consistent of bad games, he will keep his shirt. And the experienced superstar, so to speak, would have to bide his time. That's football. And I've always sort of sold that to players when I'm signing them, that you'll get a fair chance. If you get your shirt, you keep it. And that's how I would want it to be treated as a player. If I had a bad couple of games, then I would understand to lose my shirt to a good player that's sitting on the bench, working hard, waiting in the wings to get his opportunity. So I just always say to managers that are starting out, just remember how you want it to be treated as a player. And sort of, I think that's done me quite well. And that's why I think one of my strengths is man management, is getting players to play for me, and also getting teams to be really, really strong and bonded and being a group.
So who would you say in the pro game now, who's the best man management of all time?
Well, of all time, I don't know. You got to put Alex Ferguson up there, I suppose, in all time. But I say right now, I would say probably Klopp. You can see the players are playing for him. You can see that they have a love affair with their manager, which I think is always good to see. I would say Mourinho used to have that. I think he's lost that, and I'm a Spurs fan. I think he used to have that. Probably going back to his first stint at Chelsea and then Inter Milan. He probably went after that, where his players, they were playing for him, and he could have been managing a Sunday League team, but they will still be all playing for him and giving him the same sort of effort. And yeah, so probably all time you got to say Alex Ferguson, really, because just of what he's done in the game and how many players he churned out. But yeah, in modern day, Klopp.
So out of all the pro managers, is there anyone, before you even started managing, was there anyone you idolized as a manager?
Not really. To be honest with you, I probably, that might be something that where if I ever take a gap from football, which I don't think I will, because I miss it too much and it's too important. I would like to go and watch other managers and maybe shadow another manager, not in official capacity, but just to find out how other people do things, because I've never really, if I sit down and think about it, really like modelled or looked up to any manager in terms of, obviously, the obvious ones, the Guardiolas, the Klopps, and Mourinho's, Ferguson. Yeah, you'd want to achieve 20% of what they've achieved.
Yeah.
But I've never said, oh, I want to be like them, or that's the manager that I sort of think I am. I just think I'm quite unique to myself, really. And I probably the best people to speak about me as a manager, the players that played for me, really, or my current players. But yeah, I can't sit here. I can sit here and tell you managers I liked and managers that, but then a lot of them will probably be Tottenham managers. I liked Alex Ferguson. I like Mourinho. I like Guardiola, the obvious ones. I like Simeone, even though it's not my style of football, but I respect it, and I respect what his players do for him, really. So yeah, Harry Redknapp. I even liked Harry Redknapp, where it just all attack football. Kevin Keegan didn't care about defending, which was exciting to watch. Wouldn't want it to be my team I'm supporting, because it would give you a bit of a heart attack. But yeah, so yeah, there's managers that I've liked and admired, but I can't really tell you there's a manager that I sort of like a role model or someone I look up to, really, if I'm being honest.
So going into your playing career now, who did you play for? On what position did you play?
Well, growing up, when I was a kid, I was a centre mid, and if you ask me what player I idolised, that would be the easiest question to ask. But yeah, I was a centre mid, and funny, I stopped playing football when I was about 12. I never kicked the ball again until I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, which is so my ability as a 19-year-old and now is as good as what I was when I was 12. I don't think I've ever developed from the age of 12 because I didn't play through my teenage years.
Mm.
And I stopped due to not having some family support really, and being allowed to sort of do what I want really, and I found other things in life that was more entertaining at the time. But yeah, and it was only, as I said, by 1920, I saw it was football came to me by chance because I was coaching in late, and as I said to you, so I was about no, tell you that, so I was about 20, 21, and there was a short of a player one day. The boys that come out of the prison that we was working with, and they asked me to step in, and I borrowed a pair of boots, and I got the bug back for it, and went to go and play. But one thing that really shocked me was that I thought, wow, because I did think I was half decent when I was a kid. And yeah, as I said, when I went to play as an adult, it was like, this is what you was as a 12-year-old, Justin. So you can imagine a 12-year-old playing with adults is probably not going to be as good. But yeah, then so I moved into centre back, which I think my mouth got me through a lot of games and playing at semi-professional level because, as I said, my ability was of a kid, in my opinion.
So do you believe that you're playing, well, you played for a certain amount of years. Do you believe that helped you through your transition into management?
Yeah, even though, as I said to you, when I was 2021, I don't think I was that good. I still played a hell of a lot of football. I was playing like 3 or 4 11-a-side games a week, signed to 3 or 4 different teams. It was just, I was playing for a midweek league. I was playing for a Saturday semi-pro team. I was playing for a Sunday morning team, a Sunday afternoon team, 5-a-side during the week. So I played a hell of a lot of football, and I loved it, and I got the bug back for it. But as I said, I broke my leg when I was 26, 27, and I didn't think I was good enough to play any higher than probably the level I'm at now as a manager, and I just thought to myself, let me give managing a crack really, because I might have a better opportunity to progress in that, which I'm pretty confident I will do. And yeah, so that was what really sort of done it for me.
So when you first got into management, did you have a period where you felt like, okay, this isn't for me?
No, because when I first started, I actually, obviously, I thought this was plain sailing and it was quite easy. I was quite fortunate because obviously I'm 26, 27, and I've still got all my mates that are around my age that I can call on to come and play for me. So that's what, in the beginning of my early career, that's a management career, that's what I had. I had all my mates that were playing at decent levels, higher than me, maybe 2 levels, 3 levels higher than me, some of them, and calling on them favours to come and play for me. So that's a big reason why we were successful as well, because I had good players to call upon. And one thing that I realised very quick is that I knew a lot of people in football, even people that I may have lost contact through school, through playing football as a kid, that I've gone into the pro game or gone into semi-professional football. So once I started to build myself out, those contacts, those people I started to get back in contact with, either bumping into them at a game or bumping into them at a football coaching call or whatever. And then I just started to build up my black book, so to speak. And my black book is quite special.
That's fantastic. I mean, fair play to you. You're coaching at a good level, and you're doing really well for yourself. So, congratulations from me. I also know that you do some scouting work.
Yeah.
At Colchester. How's that going for you?
Well, it's not scouting. It's more like the reason why I sort of got involved in it. There was a player called Junior Udozi Agorozi. I can't pronounce his surname correctly, but I had him at Abley, and he played for me. I was always helping him with football. He went abroad and come back from abroad, and I said he wanted to come and play for me, and I said to him, look, you just come back from playing full time abroad. Let me try and get you something a bit full time. And I had a friend at Colchester, and I knew the manager at Malden, and I knew Malden had a link with Colchester. So I said, look, take a look at this boy for me, but you only can sign him on the basis that he's going to be able to train full time with Colchester, and obviously give him half decent wage.
Hmm.
And he went and played a trial game for him, scored 4 goals, and they signed him on the spot. And I think within 6 months he got a 2-year contract at Colchester. He played for their first team and on a number of occasions. And yeah, so that's how it sort of came about really, because I've had quite a lot of players that have either gone into pro clubs playing under me or playing at the highest levels at in the National League or the Conference South. So yeah, I think so. They sat down and we had a meeting. They tried to recruit me to go to join Morden as well as working for Colchester, but I just said I was happy at Barking at the time and I'm happy to help them. And so basically, to cut a long story short, if I identify a player or have a player that's playing for me or spot a player, I would either do 2 things: give a contract Colchester scout to go and watch him, or get the player into me to work with me for a bit, and then send them in to train with the 23s at Colchester. And then it's down to the player really for them to impress, and if they do well, they'll get a contract or signed at Colchester. So yeah, that's how it really works, really.
Mm. Do you think that's kind of like a selling point to players for you to recruit?
To be honest, I don't really. Funny you say that. I don't think I've ever. I may have mentioned it once or twice, but I don't really. As I said, I have 2 people that I sort of answer to, so to speak, or have dialogues with at Colchester, and I'll throw them players, they'll throw me players, because on the same flip side, they would have a player that's training with the 23, they don't really think it's ready and needs to play semi-professional football, they'll send them to me. So, yeah, I just think most people know, I suppose, that's what I do. And yeah, I don't really say it to players. I would only probably, if I was going to say it to a player, I'll probably be saying it to a player that um, is very young and maybe left the pro game, and I'll be honest with you and say, look, you need to come and play some non-league football just to get a bit stronger and play regular men's football. And if you do really well, I can get you an opportunity at Colchester. So yeah, I probably should use it more than I do, but I don't.
No, that's fair enough. And it's working for you. I mean, so why change something that's not broken?
Yeah, yeah.
Going into young players, are you a
Yeah.
massive fan of young players? Do you give young players a chance a lot?
I think if you've ever done your homework on me or anyone knows me, that will know that predominantly that's what I've sort of based my career on is producing a lot of young players. If I could even I could go probably name over 100 young players that I've helped to either gone into the pro game or playing at a very decent level in non-league, or if they are playing at our level non-league, are probably some of the top earners. So yeah, that unfortunately I've not been. It, it's been a blessing for young players, but if I was at a club that if I was at clubs who paid massive wages to players, I probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to do that. So that's one positive of it. But I'm in a position where I have to dip into those markets of young players because I don't have the club I work for doesn't have the finances to go and sign the established best players that can command the best money. With the new stadium coming at Barking, I'm hoping that will change and we'll go to be one of those teams which I know the chairman's ambitious to do. I'm ambitious to do where we can compete with the best players. Which, to be honest with you, I probably had my best squad at Barking this last season just finished, and definitely going into the new season after retaining most of the squad and adding 1 or 2, I think we would be very strong. So it would probably be our most experienced squad going into the season unless anything drastically happens. And I think that's vital because if you want to be successful, yeah, it's good to have a sprinkle of young players in there, but it's hard to really be successful with a full young team. And some of the young players in this day and age, they need to be realistic as well. They're not. They expect to have 10 good games and get a pro contract. It doesn't work like that.
Mm.
Some of the players that I've had progress for me, I've said this story numerous times, and not necessarily, and that's no disrespect to them. They're not necessarily been the most talented players I've worked with, but they've been the most hungry. They've been the most dedicated. They've been applied themselves correctly. Listened, took their advice. Perfect example. If I was a young player, I knew I had the ability, but I didn't have the game or the game time. Listen, most managers in non-league and I don't, like I said, it's not. I'm not pinpointing anyone out, but most managers in the league are quite lazy. They don't go and watch players. They'll sit on the internet and look at their stats for their club and like, oh, yeah, he's done that in 20 games, done that. Let me put 7 there and go and sign. Yeah. I've known managers to approach my players and never seen them play, but just going on what they've seen on our Twitter feed.
Mm.
So what I'm getting to is, if I was a young player, I'll go and say, look, I'm going to commit to a team for 1 year, sit down with that manager and say, look, I'm not too concerned about getting the most money. What I want from you is first team football. I get it. If I don't play well, I lose my shirt. But if I'm doing the job, I want to keep my shirt and play week in, week out. If I'm doing what you're asking me, I want to play week in, week out. And if a manager can agree to that, I think the player should sign to that club and give a full season. And then write down these goals, stick it on his wall, what he wants to achieve by Christmas, by the end of the season. Aim to achieve that if the manager's given him the game time. If he does that, and if this is a striker, for example, and they hit double figures, 15, 20 goals, and they're a young striker, then the chances are they're not going to need me. They're not going to need the club. They're going to have clubs knocking at their door to take them at a high level. But as I said, I've seen players that just play 1 or 2 games and or half a dozen games and think they've cracked it, and go to a club in the same league for a little bit more money because they've showed them how much they want them and sold them dreams, and then they end up sticking around that league. And the players that have sort of took my advice and turned down all those approaches from clubs, and actually the ones that have gone pro player from me or a high level, they're the ones that have probably paid the least money as well, because they're not interested. They just say, look, I'm going to give you a full season. I want to honour that. You honour it by giving me the games. I'm not interested in money, as long as I get my petrol money covered or whatever. And they go gym, they go and train 5 days a week. Players, I get young players saying to me, I want to be a pro. Well, at semi-professional football, we only train twice a week. We're in 3 days a week. We train twice and play a game on a Saturday. We play a game on Tuesday. We only train once a week. So how are you going to be a professional footballer if professional footballers are training 5 days a week? You need to go and do what they're doing. Go and train 5 days a week. Train with your semi-pro club twice a week. Train 3 days a week on your own, or find someone to train you, or find somewhere where you can't go train to access that. Do what the pros are doing, as well as playing games, putting yourself in a shop window. But that's the advice I'll give to young players. If you don't talk a game, go and do what you have to do to and set yourself targets and try and achieve them.
Mm. So training twice a week and having 1 game a week, how hard is it for you as a management team to try and get everything in for that 1 game?
Yeah. If I'm honest with you, if I could do it full time, even at this league, I would probably do it, because, as you said, especially this season, for the first time in my career, it's going to change, and I'll explain the reason why. Because up until now, so all my career up until now, you're lucky if you get an hour and a half on a Tuesday to train wherever you train, because another team's coming on, you have to get off the pitch.
Yeah.
Same as a Thursday. I'm sure all managers are in a similar boat to me, and so time runs over. You can't get what you want to say. You got to rush. But this season, I'm hoping we'll see a big improvement on that, because now we've got our own 4G pitch going down. We'll have a 3-hour slot, 3.5 hour slot on a Tuesday. What we can do 1 couple of hour slot on a Thursday, and won't be no one rushing to kick us off. And I'm hoping that will prove a benefit. And if we really want to do extras, we've got another training pitch which is grass that we can always access if the club had to rent out the pitch to make some revenue. So I'm hoping with all those small things this season, we can, and players that want to do extras and they've got the opportunity to do that now, and hopefully that will reap its benefits, really.
Mm. So would you say it's really difficult to try and do it in a short space?
You're a coach. I'm sure you agree. It's especially if you've got a group of 18 players. But in an ideal world, I would want to work with them, maybe split them into 3 groups and work with them each an hour. You know, don't get that. Some days in training, I'd want to have a 15 to 20 minutes meeting with each player before we start training. Can't do that. Have to do that while training's going on, pulling them out of training session in previous up until now. I might just want the strikers to stay behind for an hour after training's finished to work on things. I might want the defence to stay behind midfield. And as I said, you don't get to do those things. You have to, unfortunately, cramp everything in, and it can be an overload. But then at the same time, you have to remember, I suppose, asking players that work full time to be at training that much, it might be detrimental to them, because they're thinking I'm a part-time player here, but then that's the difference between the players that want it or not. And as I said, I'd rather have players that are committed, want to work extra behind the scenes, than if they're not as good as a good player that only wants to be in that training, the first one out, first one to leave, first one in, first one, last one in, first one out. you're not going to be successful. So yeah, you got to get that balance right, really.
Would you say Cristiano Ronaldo in a pro game does that the best, and he's shown it?
Yeah, well, I don't know him personally, but from what you hear in the stories and rumors of anyone that I have known to even be anywhere near him on a training pitch or whatever, apparently he's the first one in training and the last one to leave. Practices 100 free kicks a day or whatever. David Beckham was the same sort of player, was always doing extras in training, and those players they reap their benefits. Like David Beckham is a perfect example. Ronaldo is a perfect example of that. Yeah, in terms of football ability, Ronaldo is nowhere near Messi. To me, it's clear to see. But what Ronaldo is better than Messi at is he's improved his graft. His craft. He's someone that is not relying on natural ability. He's improved it year on year on. Obviously now he's probably coming to the end of his career. I reckon he's still got 3 or 4 years, but so he has to change his game a bit. But for me, Messi, I'm not saying Messi don't train, but Messi is a kind of player that can just wake up in the morning and play everywhere he wants. And I mean, he has to train, I understand, to be compete at an elite level, but I'm pretty sure he does train as hard, but I'm pretty sure it's all natural to him and it's not something that he's had to continue to work on. If you've seen videos from Messi when he was a kid, he's doing things that he's doing when he's 10, 11-year-old that he's doing now. If you look at Messi when he was younger, even just before he signed for Man United at Sporting, he would just dribble for the sake of dribbling, run off the pitch, just take on a man, have no end product. So where Messi is, as I said, from a kid, has always been dribbling past 3 or 4 or 5 people, putting it, sliding the goal, setting up a goal, the ball like sticks to him like glue. So that's why when people compare them, I don't see any comparisons really. I can understand the stats because the stats are definitely comparable, and that's credit to Ronaldo that he can even be classed in that category, and that's why I think Ronaldo deserves a lot of credit. But as a natural footballer, I don't think in my lifetime I'll never see a better footballer than Messi.
I totally agree. I think Messi's better than Ronaldo, naturally. But we're all lucky to have them in our era.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And yeah, but going into young coaches now. So there's young coaches who watch this and try and learn of people like you who are doing really well. Would you say it's true that there's hard times before the good times in management?
Yeah, the advice I give to any young coach, manager is believe in what you're trying to get across to players. If you don't believe in it, a player can smell a bullshitter, so to speak, so it's swearing. But players can feed off someone that doesn't know what they're doing or is nervous or doesn't believe in it. So believe in what you're saying, but also at the same time, be open to criticism. Ask players to ask you questions. I've always, anytime I do a session with players, I always say to them, why don't you ask me why I'm doing this? What purpose is this going to help me in my game? Why is this going to work in a football match? And if a player can't take those, if a coach can't take those kind of questions, then he's someone that's just definitely just doing things by the book, and he's a computer coach, what I speak. And he's not someone that's got a personality and is willing to adapt, because I'll be honest with you, some of the best sessions I've ever put on or coached, I've thought about while I've been sleeping or sitting in my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the idea just clicked into my head. I've not read it, I've not watched it from anywhere. And I thought, and I've written it down on a piece of paper, and I thought, yeah, let me try that. Rather than going through a book and using things. Go and watch other coaches, go and watch other managers if you can. Try and improve your knowledge, try and improve your experiences. Yeah, and just be strong in decisions that you make. Let players know that you're not going to be an easy walkover. But at the same time, have someone around you that's going to tell you the truth if you're doing things wrong, even though you're not going to let the players tell you that in a group, because obviously you've got to show there's only one person in charge, really.
And that goes back to the support network around you, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. As I said, even my captain, my captain would never really disagree with things if I say it in a group, but sometimes he might call me after or speak to me after, say, look, I didn't want to pull you up on that because out of respect, but I thought that was wrong. And sometimes I'll agree, sometimes I won't, and I respect that. I like players that challenge me, but not in a disrespectful way, in a way that like they want to improve their knowledge and they want to know what you're saying is that. Because sometimes a coach, and I always say this to players, maybe I'm not explaining myself correctly. Maybe in my head it's sounding good, but coming out of my mouth to you guys, you you're not understanding it. I remember I was telling players certain things and asking to follow certain instructions in the picture. One player said, "Can I ask a question?" He's like, "Can you write this down for me so I can read it?" Okay, fair enough. So I wrote it all down for him. He was one player that wanted it written down on a piece of paper so he could read it personally.
Mm.
And again, another manager might be like taking that as like you taking the piss out of me, but no, I thought that's how he wanted to get that information into his brain and to absorb it. So I wrote down exactly what I was going to speak about, and from there on, when he played for me, he doesn't play for me no more. This was a couple of years ago, and I made sure that he had all that written down in paper, what I was going to explain to the team, so he could read it. Because, as I said, I might talk too fast, I might not speak clearly, I might speak it with too much passion. So we've all got our faults, and if someone isn't getting what I'm trying to say to them, then I've got to try and communicate it another way, as we would do if someone couldn't understand English. We'd have to find some sort of way to communicate with them, or on the vice versa, if someone couldn't speak another language that player could speak, you have to find ways to communicate with players. The beauty of football is that the ground thing doesn't change in any country or any language. The pitch doesn't change,
Mm.
so that's why it's a easy sport and a beautiful sport.
Mm. Would you say that goes back to man management and knowing your players and knowing how they take things on in a better way than just talking?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to understand. Like another example, there's players that you can shout at. There's players that you can put an arm around. There's players that you can't even tell them off in front of a group of people because they the way they've been raised or previous managers that they played for, it's made them have a lot of anger and animosity and they see a fuse. And you've got to identify that as a manager. There's no point me trying to show my authority to a player that I'm not concerned that he's going to say something, because there will be consequences for him if he's going to disrespect myself or my management team. But if you're going to lose that player in terms of that, he's going to be no good for you for that game. There's no benefit for that. No one's going to win in that situation. Now, if this was at, I don't know, a training session or something, then yeah, you can probably deal with it a bit different. But there's no point me having a player at half time who I know if I tell him I've lost him, I won't have him for the next 45 minutes. So if I am going to tell him, that means I'm going to be taking him off, because he's going to be able to perform for the next half, because he's someone that can't take criticism quickly and he's going to see red.
Mm.
And at the same time, on the flip side, there's players that if you're soft with them, they'll walk all over you. That you have to let them know that you're in charge. You have to growl at them. You have to sometimes get in their faces and say to them it's not good enough and you want more, and they're not implementing or they're not leading the team, and then you see they go out and second up and take it to the other team. Again, I keep speaking about my captain, but my captain is someone that the way he's been raised and respected, he will take that manager telling him that he'll thrive off that. He wouldn't take it as a negative, and he'll go out there and roll his sleeves up and say, "All right, I'm in his head. I might not necessarily agree, but I'll show him that I can deliver what he's asking of him."
Mm.
So yeah, you definitely as a manager, you have to know your players, and every player is different. In this time of football now, with I say the generation of the young players coming through, they're a different breed. They've been pampered. They've come through academies where they don't carry their own boots or shin pads, and they think they've made it, and they've not even stepped onto a professional football pitch. Then they come into non-league, and it's a major shock to the system. It's like, what have I done? How have I ended up here? Well, it can only be down to you. You can't, you understand? So you've got to make the most of it, and that's another thing that I get frustrated with players, is that they're still hurt from being let go from a pro club. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt, but you got to bounce back. If you fall down, you got to pick yourself up, and there's no point crying over spilled milk. I've seen a lot of talented players just sort of give up with football, being released from academies, and tried non-league and then just stopped and ended up in prisons or just in criminal activities. And as I say, I always believe I know the percentage of people making it professional is very low, but you can play football at a decent level if you're good enough and earn a small bit of money and do well for yourself. I do believe that. Like even non-league, there's some non-league clubs that pay probably better than some League Two clubs. So yeah, but like I said, that I have a son, and yes, my dream would be for him to make it professional football. But my main, if I had to be honest with you, my main goal would be when I've stopped managing, or if I want to stop managing, that I can go, whether it's non-league, I can go on a Saturday, and have a beer and watch my son play football and cheer him on, whatever level that is. If I would hope it would be at least non-league level, and yeah, that would make my day really. You know what I mean? But because as I said, a small percentage of players make it, and as long as I can go and watch my son play football and he can be part of a team and hopefully winning things, I think I'll be a pretty reasonable, happy man.
Mm, that's fantastic. I mean, I've seen a few videos on Twitter. I mean, he looks like a player, so he has high potential.
Yeah, but I've I've seen I've got an older son who's 18, and when he was young, he was anyone that knows him, my friends that were around that time always remind me how good he was and why. But he fell out of love of football at 12 and has never played football since.
Wow.
So yeah, and I'll be honest with you, that day when he told me he didn't want to play football, it broke my heart. But one thing I learned from it is that you can't force anyone to do anything. And same with my young son, as long as he keeps loving the game, he's got half a chance. What I will say is, what I think sets him apart from a lot of kids is that he's hungry to improve. He's hungry to do better. He's never satisfied. He'll train twice a day. Um, if he's not won a game, he wants to improve it in the next game. He's not happy if he loses. So yeah, I think that's what sort of there's a lot of players that got ability. Yeah, my son has got ability, but I think that's what sort of the hunger. I'm a big believer. If you have that hunger, you've got half a chance. I've seen some non-league players that don't have zero ability, but their hunger has got them to a decent level and doing very well at the game. And I believe a lot of football players have got skills and talent and unbelievable ability, but there's not many that have a hunger. And we can all say, yes, we want to do this, but there's a way. You got to go out and do it. As I said, my son's 7 years old. He's training twice a day. Is how many adults that are professional footballers that saying they want to be professional footballers are training twice a day? You understand? It's not just my boy. It's about 3 or 4 of him and his mates. They just have an elite mentality. They just hungry to succeed. And as long as he keeps that, he'll have half a chance. If he drops that and just takes it as a jolly up and trains whenever his team trains, then he'll end up just, as I said, at best being a non-league player.
Mm. Takes after his dad by the sounds of it.
Well, my older son, they both got more ability than I ever had, but my older son never had the hunger for it. And I knew that from day. One thing I can't take credit for his ability, because as I said, my 7-year-old son's got much more ability than I had, but one thing I can take credit for is his hunger and his determination and doesn't like losing. Definitely got that for me. And again, I think that's one of my best traits.
Mm. So, how could a young coach now learn how to understand players better? What could they do in their own time?
Well, um, the best managers are not necessarily the managers that are on the pitch doing the coaching sessions. You need to be a social worker. You need to be an uncle. You need to be a parent, a father figure to some of these parents, a role model. You need to be. Sometimes you have to go out of your way to do things that might not necessarily have anything to do with football.
Mm.
Build relationships. Let them know that they've got a friend there. Let them know that you're there for them. You're not just there for them because they're playing for your football team. Like a lot of my ex-players that have left me years ago, and I'm talking years ago, I'm still in contact with. I might go to some of their kids' birthday parties or their weddings or whatever, or if they need advice. Like I've got ex-players that turn managers that will call me for advice. So that's always for me. That's a good trait on me, and that's a good trait on them that they feel that they can reach out to me and that I would be there for them. And again, I believe that's very important because a lot of players feel managers use them. And as I said, I think my record speaks for itself when in terms of players that play for me and players that come back and play for me. That I'm a likable person. I'm someone that people like and don't have a bad word to say about. And I think you just got to build good relationships with people. And some I've met some of my best friends through football, and some players that I've introduced to each other have become best friends for life and godfather each other's kids. And I think that's the environment I create when you play for me. I think I make it an environment that you end up making some of your best friends at football. Where a lot of teams, they don't do that. They just go to a team and leave and never even speak to that player again. But as I said, there's a lot of players that have played for me that have become friends for life, and And I 100% take full credit for that, because that's something I try and build, is that make it like that. Make it that you want to go and spend time at your mate's house. You want to pick up the phone for him and speak to him outside of football. And I believe you do those kind of things. It not just makes you a better team, it makes you a better human being as well.
Mm. No, it's fantastic, and I totally agree with you. Going into last season now, season that got null and voided, unfortunately. What would you say was your best part of your season and your worst?
Well, I think I already highlighted the worst was our start to the season. So I think we can just nick that in the bud there. That was that. Highlights, few highlights, beating top of the league twice and not conceding any goals and being the first team to beat them. That was a highlight. Playing Dagenham and Redbridge, first team in the Essex Senior Cup at Dagenham and Redbridge, and losing only in the last minute a 3-2.
Wow.
Taking them all the way and being clapped off the pitch by their supporters and praised by their management team. That was a big highlight. What else? There's a few others. Having some good battles with Tooting and Mitcham. I think the best team that we played, even though we won one, they won one. I thought it was two fantastic teams and two good games. FA Cup win, beating my old team Aveley in the FA Cup was always nice. Yeah, so just going to look, we had a good run. I think we went, I think 9 or 10 games undefeated. Took a young boy on loan from Charlton who's only 18, 17, and scored 7 goals in 12 games for us before getting injured for Charlton, go back to train with Charlton. Just giving this to the squad, the team nights out that we had, the bond that some of the boys created, and to sum it up, that all the boys want to stick together and play with us next season. And as I said, I don't think the last time I've had a squad that's wanted to stick together or I've managed to keep together, so to speak, was probably you're going back maybe 15 years, 16, no. Yeah, I think I'm getting it wrong. I've been managing about 17 years. I must have started managing when I was 25, because I remember I was managing Bethnal Green at 2004, 2005, and that's already 16 years. So yeah, going back to those times when I was at Bethnal Green, that we had a team that stuck together. So yeah, it's been some good. I've enjoyed the season. The changing room's been one of the highlights as well. The spirit in there. If we win a game, we have a good sing song. We have a good fines man, because it's never easy in non-league to find someone that wants to do the fines, finding the players. So big up to Dan, who's always finding the players and doesn't let them get away with it, because as I said, small things like that are very, very important for the professionalism and showing that, look, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're late or dirty boots or whatever, you got to be prepared. And I always say to players, foul to prepare to foul. So yeah, so it's a lot of good highlights. I'm probably missing loads at the top of my head. I just can't remember, but I think some of those are, well highlights that I thought of.
So you managed at under 23 level as well, and you had great success.
How did you know?
I've done a little bit of research.
Oh, okay. So what did I win? What did I win?
I believe you won the League Cup or the league.
Yeah, won the league. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ricky.
You did.
Yeah.
So
won the League Cup. I won the League Cup with the first team, Billy Ricky, as well.
There you go. So you won both.
Yeah.
So comparing the two now, like first team level and under 23s level,
the only reason I did the under 23s was the under 23s manager left, and as me and Glenn was joint manager of the first team, I said to Glenn, look, I don't mind doing it, because I mean I love football, and I think it would help in terms of showing the 20 young players that there's an opportunity to, maybe if the managers look at them, get them into first team, which one or two got themselves into the squad. And yeah, and I enjoyed it, and I was lucky enough to every game that a few of the first team players wanted to come and play, so that helped us. I'm not going to lie. So, but yeah, it was really good, and funny enough, we won the league at my old team, Aveley, on their ground, but not against Aveley. If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't. No, it was against someone else. Can't remember who it was against now. But yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, so what's the difference between under 23s level and the men's level? How do you adapt?
Well, I feel there's no pressure in the 23s. Not that pressure. I don't. If I'm honest with you, the only pressure, I don't think no chairman or no one's ever gave me any pressure more than I give myself. So, and again, no disrespect to any chairman I work for, but I don't think any chairman's ambitions have been as high as mine as well. So, a chairman's gave me their targets at the beginning of the season, and every chairman I've worked for, I've smashed their targets. So that's something that I'm proud of as well. But my own ambitions are probably on par with a crazy man. But look, I wouldn't get out of bed in the morning to commit my life to football if I didn't believe in what I'm trying to achieve and want to achieve.
Mm.
So yeah, the difference are that 23, I think, is a bit more relaxed and there's no pressure, and players can play with more of a freedom. But to me, it's football. It's football, and yeah, the first team is better because you have a crowd, and obviously there is a difference when you see on match day. But the in principles, it's the same. You prepare the same. You set them up the same. You try and win the game the same way. So.
Mm. So in the next 10 years, where do you hope to be in management?
Or I hope to be. My dream is to do football full time. So in whatever capacity that is, I'd like to do. I would like to wake up and do something that I love, which I wouldn't class as going to work. I would probably do it for free if I was rich. So yeah, that's definitely my ambition. On the other side, I would like to take Barking as far as I can, especially with all the facilities that are getting built right now. I do believe there's no. I'm not one of these managers to come out and say we're going to do it in 3 years or 5 years or whatever. But there's definitely ambitions from the club to get as high as possible, and we're only going to talk about the next level. The next level is to try and get to the Ryman's Prem, Ishmael's Prem, and that's what we're focusing on really. And with, as I said, with the facilities that they're building and that chairman's ambitions, um, the sky's the limit really in terms of how far. As long as the chairman's ambitions match mine, I think it's a match made in heaven. If one's falls off, then there's going to be a part ways some way. But as I said, I'm very happy there, and I feel I'm more to the club than just a manager. I do believe there's more respect there for what I've done for the club in terms of in their first season they was favourites for relegation, and I sort of they'd never really flirted with that apart from the first month or two of last season. So yeah, I think I've established them at this level now, and the respected club and players want to come and play. Yeah, a lot of players probably are coming to play for me, but I like to believe some are coming to play for Barking as well.
That's fantastic. There was a question on Twitter that someone asked, and it was, who is the best player you've managed against?
I get this question asked to me all the time, and I can never answer it for you because one, as I said to you earlier, I've managed so many players, and as I said, one, I couldn't answer it. Two, wouldn't be fair, but I'll sort of turn the question around, as I always say, the ones that stick out in my mind are not necessarily the ones that have made it. It's always I suppose that sums me up as a manager. I'm always self-evaluating and always thinking about the one or two that I've not managed to get into the program or I've not managed to take to the next level, and that always sits heavy on my heart. The ones that have gone far, not that I forget about them, because I'm always in contact with them, but they're doing their thing. I believe it's like having a child, and you grow them until they're 18 and they get a job and a career and a wife. Then yeah, they're going to come and visit you for Sunday dinner now and again, but you're not that responsible for them. They're going to feed themselves and look after themselves. So just be the occasional visits or whatever. So yeah, the ones that I say sit heavy on my heart, the ones that I feel either I failed them or they failed themselves, or we've not met, or they've not took my advice. And I always say one of the most talented players that I really don't know why he's not playing professional football in this country is Theo Ola. He's by far one of the most talented footballers I've ever worked with, and it's something that always, like I said, it could. I take it as a failure on myself, and I've tried, and I mean, he's tried, but it does take two to tango, so to speak. So maybe I'm being a bit harsh on myself, but as I said, he's someone that I would love nothing more for him to one day wake up and go and fight the challenge head on and whatever level it is, and play as hard as you possibly can. But yeah, in terms of naming the best player, I think if I answer you this question, I'll be getting a lot of stick because I've had about 20, 30 people in the past try to ask me this question, and I can't answer it. I'm just to be totally honest, I can't answer. I've had too many to name, and I've been very fortunate to have some very good players that have played for me, and long may that continue.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Is there anyone you want to shout out, or anything you want to shout out? Any companies?
No, just obviously, if you ever want any advice, or I'm a manager that likes to help people. If a young manager or coach needs any advice, I do try and help, because I like to believe there are some good people left in football. They can follow my socials. I'm sure you'll put them up. And yeah, like I said, anyone wants to do any one-to-one coaching to improve on certain areas, I do those things as well. I'm doing a lot with academy adults, academy teenagers, so to speak, and kids, and a few semi-pro footballers. And yeah, as I said, any way that I can try and help players to better themselves and give good advice, and listen, I'll get more not more, just be careful about that. I'll get as much satisfaction as seeing a player progress in football as I do as winning football matches. And that's always been my sort of take on things. And some people can take that as like, you're not looking at for yourself, Justin, because I have moved players on who I could probably keep to see them progress. But as I said, I would like to, when I'm finished with football, that I'm remembered as someone that is respectful and is honest and helps people and is a man of his word and has good integrity. And I won't change really for anyone.
No, definitely. I'll leave your stuff down below, and I wish you the best in your next season and many seasons to come. If you guys have enjoyed watching, please leave a like, please subscribe, and yeah.